Okay, I want to start my presentation by asking one question. Are there any planetary imagers in the audience here?
One?
Okay, there's one. That's plenty. When was the last time that you were able to image any planet, Saturn or Jupiter or Mars, right above your head?
Oh, it's been a long time.
I know, painful.
Yeah.
Very painful. And me, being a planetary imager mostly, I do a lot of deep space, deep sky imaging as well. But I enjoy planetary imaging the most. And it's been very frustrating for me as well. The last image that I captured that I would say decent of Jupiter was in 2016. And it was just above my neighbor's house in Etobicoke. So it was very frustrating. Based on that, I started to do a lot of research to image planets in lower latitudes. So I have the chance to speak to a good friend of mine, Christopher Go, who is a well-known planetary imager worldwide. And he said, well, come to Cebu. You stay with me and then we'll image planets. Well, that's too far for me, Christopher, so why we don't try to do something closer to the equator, latitude 10. Actually, Cebu, where he is, it's latitude 10. But the planets for him, especially Saturn and Jupiter, at a certain point, he has a margin of 50 to an hour and 20 minutes of imaging, the highest peak from his house. So we start doing a lot of research because I really wanted to image planets badly. I really wanted to image Jupiter and Saturn based on the drought that we had here at our latitude. So first of all, I went to Florida, Clearwater, and it was okay, but it was not satisfactory. Then okay, I'm going to go a little bit farther south. So I went to Belize. And I said, okay, I cannot bring my equipment, C11, an equatorial mount, to Belize. I better try to find somebody that is willing to invest in astronomy. So I was able to speak to a group of Canadian businessmen that owns a resort in Belize. And the idea sounds beautiful. We were trying to accommodate things, but we had a big problem, and it was power. Power in Belize is really bad. So to power a large equatorial mount was not ideal. So it was a big frustration. So I came back to Toronto empty-handed. A year passed, and I still in my quest to find a good place where to image, and at the same time to find somebody that was willing to invest in astronomy. Because as I said, I cannot travel back and forth with a heavy equatorial equipment, telescopes, cameras, and all that. So one night, after work, I started looking for a place for me and my wife to relax. It was a really bad winter. So I found a place that actually I am very familiar with, because I used to go scuba diving and windsurfing at that location. It's not far away from the city that I was born in, Cartagena in Colombia. And it's an archipelago of islands. It's called the Rosario Islands, that is not far away from Cartagena. And I remember seeing really, really dark skies there at that time. So I said, okay, I'm going to explore the possibility. And when I found a place, I couldn't believe that they have built such an amazing hotel there that encompasses the beauty of nature and respect for environment. So I decided to contact the owner, who in fact is perhaps one of the most important businessmen in not only Colombia but in South America. The spheres of people that he knows has a worldwide scope. People like Richard Branson knows him. So I contacted him. I said, okay, I will not lose anything by sending him an email and see if he replies to me. So honestly, I was expecting a reply maybe in a year or so. So to my surprise, 20 minutes after, I got a reply. I couldn't believe it. I was in shock. And he said literally to me, Mr. Guerrero, I am interested in funding your project. I like astronomy. My family has been very funded to astronomy, and we go to Chile from time to time. So I would like to know a little bit more. So the next day, we set up a conversation, and then we start talking, and this is what happens, basically, after that. So I organized a trip to this wonderful place in Baru at latitude 10. But I needed somebody because who is Manuel Guerrero? Okay, a guy from Toronto that loved to image planets. So I tried to convince initially Damien Peach and Christopher Go, both to be together. Damien couldn't make it, so I said, okay, let me try with Christopher. So I contacted Christopher, and we spoke briefly for about 10 minutes. I said, I am in, I'll go. So everything was set to go. So we met in Cartagena, and then we were picked up to go to this wonderful location. Everything was already there, as we planned with Mr. Bessudo, the president of this corporation. And everything was ready for us to start shooting. So after this preamble, I'm going to proceed. So as I said, planetary imaging is really challenging here in Ontario. So we look for lower latitudes, ideal to image planets a little bit longer than what Christopher experienced in Cebu. So we found that between latitude 10 and 12, we could have a very good chance to image at least for 50 more minutes than what he usually do in Cebu. I asked him why. He said, well, usually the curve from the Caribbean, actually, the planet reach a highest peak, and it lasts longer than what it does in Cebu. So that was actually quite interesting to know that. Then we tried to find out what was the best equipment to bring down. So in a conversation with Mr. Bessudo, he gave me literally an open book to me, bring whatever you want. So we start looking for the best equipment, and we contact Astrophysics in California. But the problem with astrophysics was the tripod that it has to be manufactured, so it was taking too long. And Christopher has limited time to be in Colombia with me. So we decided to go for a Celestron CGXL, the latest equatorial and the largest mount manufactured by Celestron. We had a little bit of a discrepancy about the C14. He uses a LXT, the old orange OTA from Celestron. I have the Edge. So he said the best optics for planets is, surprisingly, I didn't know that, is the XLT for planets. So we decided to go with a C14 XLT. Then everything in place with Mr. Bessudo, we start shooting. We went down and started exploring the skies at that place. Now, you being a planetary imager here in Ontario, I guess you have encountered these type of images, right?
Not so much.
Okay, well, these are from my deck in Etobicoke, using a monochrome camera. I switched to the transition of using monochrome over color because it's a more sensitive camera, and you can capture more details using a monochrome camera. Anyways, I think these are decent, decent images, but not as good as I really wanted to. Because the latitude, this image actually was just right above my neighbor's house in 2016. So it was at very low latitude, as Chris explained on his previous presentation. Oh. Now, this is from Baden, my dark spot where I go to image both planets and deep space imaging. And this is okay. I got lucky that Gary Serognic from the Skies News magazine used it for one of the comments by Alan Dyer. So I was very honored for that. But it is not a good image. It's decent, but it's not good. It's still very low. So this is just an indication to tell you how frustrating it is, at least for me, I guess for you to image planets at a lower latitude. Okay? Now, this gentleman is what make everything possible. As I said, the way that he replied to me in less than 20 minutes without knowing me at all, I knew who he was, but he has no idea who I was. So this guy from Canada is sending me an email proposing this to me, and he said yes. So that's literally the way things happen. So these are his welcoming words.
My name is Jean Claude Bessudo. I am the president of Aviatur. I look forward to welcome you at our facilities in Hotel Las Islas, Bagu, Colombia. You will appreciate our resort, its comfort, nature and environmental protection of the surrounding ecosystems. I am proud to introduce our astronomical activities. You will enjoy advanced equipment under dark skies, usually excellent sighting conditions, satisfying the needs of the observers, astrophotograph and beginners alike. You will like our resort, its service, entertainment activities, and interesting dining experience. I hope to welcome you soon.
Yeah, Mr. Bessudo is a French national. He's a Colombian national now as well, but they have been investing in South America for more than 60 years. So he's a very well-respected businessman in South America. And he was the one that made all this possible. Okay, so as I previously mentioned, this is the equipment that we thought that it will be the most suitable. Now, equatorial mounts are a little bit tricky to polar align at lower latitudes. Usually the best mount that work best at lower latitudes is the astrophysics, also Paramount ME, they will work pretty well. But they were actually quite expensive. And even though Mr. Bessudo gave us the go-ahead to get whatever we want to, we decided to go a little bit humble in that sense. So the Celestron CGLX has a new mechanism, a plate that you can actually retract, and it will facilitate a polar alignment at lower latitudes. So we were able to actually do the polar alignment of this mount at latitude 10. But it was a tricky part. So we also use for our planetary capturing images a powered mate, which is, in my opinion, that's the Barlow that I use is the one that I feel more comfortable using. And Christopher, he decided to bring this camera that is it's really popular now. I am more funded of German technology, so I use Skydi's cameras. But I was quite surprised with this little tiny camera and the filter wheel that he brought. Amazing, very fast, and really quiet. The software that we use is the very general one, the Fire Capture, which is very versatile. So you can connect any kind of cameras or even filter wheels to that software. So now, this was the time of truth. We wanted to validate what we were doing there, the reason that we went there. We wanted to make sure that this location was good for planetary imaging. So that was the most important aspect of this trip. At the same time, we wanted to validate that by spending the first 2 days capturing data in the infrared, using the infrared filter, which gives us an indication about how good the conditions are. So this is a short video about, that was the first day when we arrived, actually. It was a little bit bumpy because it was very windy, and the facility that they allocate for us has no wind protection at that time. Now it is fully equipped. So this is the first image that we captured using the infrared filter, and we processed to determine if we were at the right location to image planets. So you see a lot of details there. And we both process the same image, but Christopher, he derotate the image. He used WinUpos as a derotation tool. I have experimented with WinUpos before without not really much experience. My image, in compared to his, was a total disaster, even though we have the same data. So I asked him, what is the problem? He said, well, you have to derotate. So, okay, I'm going to learn how to derotate. It forces me to derotate. So we then decided to, now that because that was an indication that we were able to get very good, solid images at that site, at that location. So here's something that we found. I don't know if everybody heard about the changes around the Great Red Spot lately. Are you familiar? Well, the day when we captured that data, we saw in our computer screen, it's not visible on this, but we saw the first fence underneath the Great Red Spot that actually were identified by Anthony Wesley in Australia. He was imaging almost simultaneously with us in Australia, and he was able to confirm to us that those were the fins underneath the actual Great Red Spot. So those are actually, it is too bad that, but here we were able to see where I am pointing, those fins that were actually emanating underneath the Great Red Spot.
Manuel, can I interrupt for a second?
Yes.
You spoke about derotation.
Yes.
That can have different meanings. Can you explain?
Sure. Jupiter, being a really big planet, is the bully of the solar system. It rotates at a really fast pace. On the poles, I think it's about 9 hours and 56 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, to be precise. On the equatorial section of the planet, it is around 9 hours and 50 minutes. So we as imagers, to avoid that blurry factor on the images, derotation is a must. So I'm working actually, part 2 of this presentation is actually about WinUpos, because I'm using WinUpos now, and I will use it from now on. But yeah, but that's a good question. Yeah, it is actually to bring the planet back to the status quo where you freeze that element of the rotation, of the fast rotation of the planet. Is that? Okay. So now, so this is still the infrared image. So we were able to get the details of that. This is Ganymede transiting in, and it was derotated. And then we decided to, after the second night, okay, let's gonna do RGB imaging. So we combined the data that we have captured earlier. And this is the result of that. Wow. Now, this is my image. I'm really proud of this because usually we shift turns. We stayed actually quite late at night every day. And Christopher had the chance to image from around 11 to past midnight. And in between, we captured data, and I captured my data as well. And this is a RGB sequence that I captured. And this is the image that was published in the Sky News magazine as a picture of the week. So if anybody, I can have the data. If anybody wants to play with the data of this, I will be more than pleased to pass it on, and you can play with that and actually use the rotation when you possess the rotation tool. So here you see the red channel, the green channel, the blue channel, and the merge of the channels in a full RGB image. Now, I would say that, yes, Mr. Bessudo was instrumental in having us to go to his wonderful location. But at the same time, I wouldn't have been able to do it if Christopher wouldn't been able to come with me. So these are his words validating our time at that place.
Hi, Buenas Dias. I'm here in Hotel Las Islas in Baru. I had a great time here imaging planets. Well, the sky conditions here are perfect, just like back home in the Philippines. We get an average of 8 to 9 over 10 seeing here. So we have a great place here for imaging planets and doing deep sky imaging and observation. Hi.
Yeah, now, as the reason why I ended up with bicycles, because the mean of commuting in the resort is bicycles. So it's a fully environmental place. I hope maybe some of you, if you decided really to visit a nice, quiet, peaceful, unbelievable place to spend some time and to do observing, because the idea is actually to bring a large Dobsonian. Eventually, we're talking about maybe a 24-inch Dobsonian for observation there. And the beauty of this is that at latitude 10, you could see from both hemispheres. So you could see from the northern hemisphere. It was crazy. We were looking at Omega Centauri before we started shooting. And then we switched from Omega Centauri to M13. So that was beautiful. That was fantastic. Now, these are some of the images of the site where we were staying. Initially, we had an entire island. I mean it, an entire island for Christopher and myself, and people to serve us, to cook for us, and to. So it was the La Dolce Vita. Okay. And this is the telescope. Now, as I said before, we didn't have really much wind protection, but everything now is in place. And it's actually amazing what they have done with that. And the idea is to bring maybe 1 or 2 Dobsonian telescopes just for observation. So these are other images of the site. Sunsets were unbelievable. I have seen a lot of beautiful sunsets here too, but there's something special about a sunset in an island. It's different, in my opinion. So these are actually where the resort is very. It has that charming, rustic charming, but it is actually high tech. Everything inside these bungalows is high tech, and when I mean high tech, it is the highest technology in that. And I just want to say thank you to people here, like well, obviously Mr. Bessudo, Christopher Go, Brian Dranesh from KW Telescope, who was instrumental in getting the equipment for us. Christopher, as a Celestron ambassador, was able to arrange that the equipment was shipped directly to Florida, where Aviatur has their own custom brokers. So it was shipped very quickly to the hotel. And that ends my presentation. Is any questions? Thank you. Oh, hi, Chris.
So this is on. I've been wanting to ask this for a while, and I have the perfect expert to ask now. So we've been seeing Juno images of Jupiter with all kinds of blue color on the southern pole of the planet, which we don't seem to see in our planetary images from Earth. Is that because Earth's atmosphere is removing that blue, or is there some other reason you can explain?
Well, the atmosphere, yes, it has an impact on that. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind that the Juno, besides being a spacecraft, the Juno is just a very, very expensive camera. So that's what it is. The camera that is at the Juno spacecraft, it is designed to capture, during periopes, different images of the planet at a very close proximity. And yes, I would say the main factor, Chris, is our atmosphere. But you know, being at the open space, in that vacuum space, you're able to capture a lot of clear data as the Juno cam does. Any other questions?
Did you get an opportunity? Did you get an opportunity to do deep sky imaging while you were there?
No, I wish I could. That's actually, we were trying to travel really light. So yes, we thought about it actually to bring my CCD camera, but as I said, the main reason was just to try to travel as light as possible, and not to carry too much heavy equipment. Although the CCD cameras are not big nowadays, but we were trying just to travel with the necessary equipment that we need. Thank you.
I have a question. Well, first of all, that is an amazing story and accomplishment, so congratulations for pulling that off. Very well done.
Thank you.
And is the equipment currently there on site?
Yes, it is.
Is it housed within an observatory or shelter?
It is actually, they have, the hotel is designed in a way that the most important aspect is the environment. The bungalow that I was staying is, and I'm going to answer that question, the entrance is a wooden path, but in between there is a tree. in that path. There is a tree, and they didn't cut it. They let the tree there. So I have to do this to go and pass that tree to get into my bungalow. Everything is in place now. They have actually improved the site where the hotel is. There is an international presence in that hotel. There's a lot of, when we were there, we were bombarded by a lot of people visitors from England, from Spain, from Denmark. And at night when we were shooting, the astronomers, the guys are up there. So they came in waves and started asking us questions, and we shared with them. We showed them some of the targets, easy targets at that time. And it was actually very, very flattering to have these people asking questions from different places. They have improved it. Everything is there now. We have some issues with humidity. So we didn't have with us a dew heater. And we were using it, actually one night, we have to use a hair dryer to dry the scope. Luckily, somebody actually in the community in Colombia, they were able to contact somebody in Bogota, and they sent to the hotel via the Aviatur company. It didn't fit, but it was enough for us to use a dew heater, a Kendrick's dew heater. I couldn't believe it. A Kendrick's dew heater in Bogota, in Colombia. So that was really amazing. But after that, we didn't experience any much problems with the humidity. It was a little bit more windy. And now the site actually is bigger. The stairs are more secure because it was a test. But now every day they are doing tours for the people that is staying at the hotel. So Mr. Bessudo is heavily promoting astronomy, and he's actually very aggressive towards that. And hopefully, if we are able to bring these Dobsonians down, he will try to find another location, because it's about 28 hectares of land that he has there. So we will find the location to have a Dobsonian there. Yes, sir.
We have a question from online where someone asked, did you observe the comet crash on Jupiter 25 years ago this week?
Did
you observe the comet crash, Shoemaker-Levy?
Well, I read it yesterday on the internet when Damien Peach made a comment about the 25th anniversary of the Shoemaker-Levy comet impacting the Jovian superficies. So yes, I have seen a lot of documentaries about that. I am very, very interested in anything that happens with Jupiter. I think the reason we are here is because of Jupiter. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. Jupiter's in a position in our, I wouldn't say ecliptic, but the position that Jupiter has is what protects us from all the asteroids, all the bodies that flies around that could end life on Earth easily, and instead it is attracted by the gravity of this mighty planet.
Any more questions?
Okay, guys, be merciful.